Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Jaime. I'm a nurse and a mystic, and I'm here today with a message, teaching, and reading from Spirit on friendship breakups. So if you find yourself going through something like that right now, this reading is for you. First, I will talk a little bit about what it's like to go through a friendship breakup. A lot of people don't talk about this. People talk about going through romantic relationship breakups, but friendship breakups can be just as painful, if not more painful. If you've known someone for longer or they've been through through these difficult times with you over many years, it can be extremely difficult when we have to or find ourselves going through a friendship breakup. It's also usually not something that we feel as comfortable addressing, when you're in a like official romantic relationship. We often find that there's all these resources and even just context in movies and songs to kind of deal with these things, even if they're not always the most helpful or healthy. But friendship breakups, we really don't talk about that. Usually they're portrayed as friendships are just like things get swept under the rug and people keep going and you're my BFF no matter what. Well, that can be true, but usually people don't stay BFFs no matter what unless they actually work on their relationship. Because no matter what, there's going to come a time in every relationship when that relationship is tested by stress, or either on one person's side or the other, or a stressor that's within the friendship boundaries. So it's important to remember that if you're going through this, you're not alone. It's not strange for you to feel like it feels like a breakup. It's important for you to address it as if it is one, and it's important, most of all, to honor your feelings and care for yourself. Now, a lot of people that I know and work with, people that are going to be attracted to this channel because they're spiritually and energetically sensitive and intuitive, are often going to find themselves in certain types of situations, and I will talk about that. Let me actually grab my notes if I can reach them. Okay, so friendship breakups can happen for many reasons, just like romantic breakups can happen for many reasons. You can grow apart, which can lead to you having different values. You can realize that you've been experiencing jealousy or betrayal. Somebody could be crossing your boundaries. You could have discovered that somebody was lying to you. You could discover a pattern of selfishness or emotional unavailability. Really the same types of reasons that you're going to find that romantic relationships end. These things can happen in friendships as well. Now, examples of this can include, being jealous when you're hanging out with somebody else, expecting to be invited to every single thing that you do, a person being jealous when you start dating someone, somebody, if you express like success in your life, that person may initially say, oh, congratulations, and then be like, oh, I wish I had that, and kind of make it about them. Now, of course, sometimes that happens to everybody, but I'm talking more about patterns of behavior that you're seeing repeat over time. You're going to want to kind of take note of that and note how you find yourself feeling. If you feel like you can't share your wins with a person because of how they're going to react, whether that be jealous or minimize that, then you're going to want to honor how you're feeling and realize that, okay, maybe this person isn't reacting in the way that I want them to, and we either need to have a conversation about that or I might need to walk away from the friendship. And this happens often when one person goes on an internal or emotional or mental or spiritual journey, when one person chooses to kind of level up their life, to make positive changes, maybe starts going to therapy. You may find yourself, kind of advancing in these ways, and you're feeling like you're kind of leaving your friend behind. And that's not your fault. They have a choice to evolve with you as well. And that's going to be part of this whole process, is figuring out if that person is able or willing to meet you where you are. Again, similar to a romantic situation. So you may be finding yourself in the in between. This may feel like confusion, like, why is this happening? Why are they acting like this? It may feel like frustration. Why don't they care about me? I do so much for them. They never reciprocate. It could feel like disappointment, regret, and even anger that these things have been happening. Or you may not even know why you're angry. You may just find that you feel angry around this person. And it's important to recognize that and kind of get to the bottom of it. Usually, at the bottom of it, there can be, once we admit to ourselves what's been happening, there can be deep sadness and grief. Maybe it's about something that they concretely did, like betrayed you in some way, or it can just be a deep sadness that this person is not who you thought they were, or that you've outgrown the friendship. You can do all this through journaling and therapy, by identifying and processing your feelings. Again, why am I feeling angry? Oh, this person keeps crossing this boundary. I keep, I broke up with my ex-boyfriend because he cheated on me and they're still friends with him, for example. That would make me really angry. And if it makes you angry, that's okay. And it's important, though, to recognize that and handle it in an emotionally mature way, maybe rather than being passive aggressive about it. You want to address it head on, and if they don't respond to you addressing it, so that would look like, I feel betrayed when you hang out with my ex because he cheated on me and treated me like crap, and it hurts my feelings that you would still want to be in contact with him. And if they say, well, I want to stay out of it, blah, 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 you would just say, okay, well, there were concrete reasons why this person treated me poorly, and I don't feel comfortable being friends with you. That would be kind of a big jump. But if you're at your end of your rope, I don't feel comfortable us being friends if you're still being friends with him. And a lot of times people will gaslight you and minimize your feelings in this situation, and it's important to stay true to yourself. There's nothing wrong with expecting or wanting loyalty in a friendship, especially when there was something that was done to you that was, completely unacceptable. Of course, there are more gray areas. If nothing was concrete and, things were kind of amicable, then you might need to respect their decision to be friends with this other person. But it's important that you have a conversation about it, about your feelings, which includes you being vulnerable about it. This isn't, I can't believe you're still friends with him, and it's really annoying, and that kind of thing. You don't want to just minimize how you're feeling, and you don't want to dismiss it, because then that's what they'll do. So you have to confront them once you kind of get out of that in-between space and you figure out how exactly you're feeling about it and why. Then again, you want to confront them. So to me, there's like the initial stages when this kind of thing starts happening, and then these feelings start bubbling up with this person, and then you find yourself in that in between where you have all these emotions, you don't really know what to do with them, you still like this person, you're still friends, but you can't help but feel confused or angry or frustrated or sad. And then, like I said, you sort that out, and then you make the confrontation of telling them what you're feeling and why and when, and telling them that you want to figure it out because your friendship means a lot. So when people hear the word confrontation, they often see like this kind of energy. But confrontation can just be this energy. You're meeting each other, and yes, there's like some resistance, but there doesn't have to be like harshness. And so you can have a conversation and you can both be vulnerable, and if you do, then you can kind of come together to an agreement, and your energies can like synchronize again, because they were doing this before, which is why you felt those feelings coming up, because you were closed off and they were closed off, or they just didn't know something was going on with you and you were bumping up against the situation. And it's important to open your heart, and then they'll open their heart and you'll figure it out. Sometimes you won't figure it out, and sometimes you will have to move on. Um, it's going to vary situation to situation how long and how much effort you put into a friendship that may be ending. There's about a million scenarios. So maybe we'll let some cards do the talking. So I'm feeling called to talk about a personal situation that may resonate with you, and if it does, then these cards are for you. So I had a friend who we got very close very fast. We bonded very much over this in this spiritual world. They considered me their best friend. I considered them a very close friend, and they were a very important person to me, especially within this world of figuring out, you know, psychic, meditation and psychic abilities and all these things. But there came a time in the relationship where I was dealing with things that were very deep and personal to me and very much in this earthly realm. And the friendship did not meet my expectations or my needs for emotional maturity through that process. And it took me a while to realize that was true because you'll notice in the spiritual world, in the new age communities, there's a lot of psychotherapy talk. There's a lot of throwing these words around that sound really emotionally and spiritually advanced, but unless they're really truly integrated and involve emotional vulnerability, groundedness, the ability to hold space, and the ability to look at one's own self and potential mistakes, then none of that spiritualese means anything. So, there just came a time where I needed to focus on myself, and I couldn't do it within the context of keeping this relationship alive. It was, draining me to the point where I was like, this person is not actually here for me. They had been going through a lot of things that just made everything about them, and it made it very difficult and very apparent to me that I needed to just focus on my own self, and that they weren't able to support me in the ways that I needed. And you may find yourself in that situation now. So you may be finding yourself either with a new friend, relatively new friend, or an old friend, and you're going through something really serious, something that they've never been through, and you are looking for grounded, emotionally available support, and they're not able to give it to you. Now, if this person is an old friend, Spirit saying, shuffle the cards. Okay, if this person is an old friend, you're going to want to give them the chance to show up for you. You're going to say to them, and if you believe that they truly have the ability to grow in this way, you're going to say to them how you're feeling. I'm feeling unheard, unseen in what I'm going through. I'm really needing emotional support, and I feel like you constantly want to, maybe they always want to fix you. Maybe they always want to distract you. Maybe they always want to, maybe they're just always talking about themselves. And so you're going to explain to them that that's what bothers you and why, and ask them if they're willing to learn how to support you in this moment. So the card for you is Queen of Wands. I'm going to take a look at this one in the booklet. I'll show you the card in just a moment. So this card is all about creativity, passion, determination, confidence, joy, bold expression, express yourself, helping others as you build your queendom and power. So this is a reminder that you are capable and fierce, and that you radiate creativity and passion. There's room for your exuberant charisma, and people can see that. Don't be afraid to be the center of attention. So that's what I'm hearing is the big message with this. Don't be afraid to make it about you. You probably have a pattern of minimizing yourself and your needs, and it's important that you say, wait a second, and you don't even have to be going through anything spectacularly difficult. It can just be you feel like it's the time to say, hey, wait a second. We kind of always do what you want to do, or we always talk and it's always about your problems. You know, it's time for you to stand up and say, I am the queen. Don't keep pushing down the feelings that say, hey, I have needs too. The Sun card, another card of shining brightly. Don't hide your light. Don't minimize. Don't make yourself small for anyone. And this is another thing that was happening in this friendship for me and could be happening for you. If you find yourself minimizing yourself, kind of letting them always be the one to talk first, maybe they're more outgoing than you are, but being an introvert or being a little bit more self-reflective doesn't make you less than. A good friend will recognize that in you, will respect it, and not expect you to be different. Sometimes this friend would, always be pushing me to like be out there and be more bold and take more risks. And, it wasn't safe for my nervous system, especially given what I was going through, but also like that's just not always who I am. I'm very self-reflective. I'm very inward facing. Now that can definitely work to my detriment. I can overthink and spend too much time doing that. But also I feel like there was no recognition of the kind of person that I am, and that's just as important and impactful is to be self-reflective. Not everybody is up and out and going. A lot of us feel, especially me, more comfortable reflecting and not always, go. So the Eight of Pentacles, this card has been coming up for me a lot lately. This card is all about don't take a shortcut. You are just as important. Again, there's no need for you to make yourself like anybody else. Stop comparing yourself, is what Spirit is saying. It's a dirty, dirty trap. Social media makes it very easy for us to compare ourselves. Focus on your life is what I'm hearing. So sometimes when we have a friend who's like this, who's a little bit more outgoing and exuberant than us, it can be a way for us to kind of step into the background, and we look to them for things. So for me, for example, it was easy for me to look to her because she looked more spiritual on the outside. It was easy for me to kind of put her on a pedestal and kind of follow her lead. But again, I realized that I'm not like that. I'm not her. That's not my personality. And there were other kind of downfalls to the way she was acting. And so I needed to learn to follow my own compass. And I recognized that that was the shadow part of me in the situation, was that I felt much more comfortable allowing someone else to lead the way. And Spirit is saying that's the healing that you're going through now as well. You're realizing that you have your own, if you look at that card, connection to source, and you need to follow it and find and maintain that connection. No one else is meant to really show you the way entirely. You're going to learn from people on the journey, but your whole personality is not going to change. That's not how spiritual awakenings work. Spirit's saying I'm getting a little bit off topic here with the friendship breakup. So you want to make sure that you're seeking justice within this friendship. Make sure that you express yourself. If there's things that have been pissing you off, say it. Don't hold it in. There's nothing wrong with being mad. There's nothing wrong with feeling like this person didn't treat you right. Maybe they were selfish. Maybe they were selfish at a time when you really needed them. And you can feel good knowing that you confronted them. And for me, with this person, it took me saying, they apologized, but it was, I'm sorry you feel X, Y, and Z, not it took me to have to explain it many times. And even then it was, I'm sorry you feel that way. I felt this way, and there's nothing wrong with a healthy dialogue. It was just constant minimization and focus on their problems and a total inability to look at themselves. And so, for me, even though the apologies happened, they didn't feel deep and genuine. And I tried to just kind of go on and not pretend like everything was fine, but there was still something that was eating away at me. And that was like my need for justice. And that doesn't mean revenge. It just meant the balancing of the scales needed to happen. And that included me cutting her off. So I got to the point where I just felt like there had been too much resentment. It had been too far. There were too many things about this person that I didn't resonate with anymore. And so I finally cut things off, and I think there was a lot of surprise there. And that's that was the completion of a cycle for me. And it was very hard. There were even times in the months following that I questioned my decision. Was I too harsh? Was it too much? And I just kept coming back to, I feel so much better without this person in my life. My energy didn't feel drained anymore. I felt like I could be myself. I just felt like I had my energy back and I wasn't being led down some rabbit hole. So I really completed a cycle for me, because that was the first time, I guess it wasn't the first time, but it's one of the very few times that I ended a relationship so definitively. I have a pattern of just kind of like letting things go. And again, the spirit is showing me this, the world card, that I reached that state of completion where I was like, okay, this relationship has served its purpose and it's time for me to let it go. Now, don't get me wrong. I was mad. I definitely ranted about it. I raved about it. I had feelings of guilt. Like I said, did I cut this off too soon? Did I, did I not give enough chances? Was it really that bad? Am I being mean? But then I just kept coming back to the things that were done and the way that they were handled. And the big one that stood out for me was when I aired all of this out, this person asked for space from me and then proceeded not to talk to me for 2 months and then call me out of nowhere and say, hey, how have you been? And I'm like, we had a huge fight. I was very upset with you. We haven't spoken in 2 months after speaking for every day for a couple of years. And you're going to call me up and say, hey, how have you been? I'd like to like reconnect. Like, what? That doesn't even, it was very challenging for me. So I kept coming back to, again, that and the other times that things were handled in a similarly dismissive way. And I had to remind myself, just like in a romantic relationship, that this person was not able to give me the emotional support and friendship that I really want and deserve. And so again, you may be finding yourself in this situation. And I pulled the Five of Pentacles here, which is very much all about grief. It's about loss and letting go. This is very hard. It was very hard for me. This was kind of like, I wouldn't say like built my life around this person for a while, but we were very close. And maybe that was part of the problem, that we got too close too fast. It was a relationship based on common interests rather than true resonance, I guess. I was also in the process of kind of like refinding my identity as I was going through my spiritual awakening. And it was helpful to have somebody that was so immersed in this world, but eventually I came back around to it, now it's like I need to do this myself on my own, in my own way. So the Five of Pentacles reversed is saying that you're feeling helpless. Don't fall into victimhood. You're feeling afraid to move ahead. Feelings of low self-worth can keep you trapped in cycles like this. So if you're feeling like this is not the first time this has happened to you, my heart goes out to you. I understand. I was in loops of relationships like this for many years, and it's very hard. You can feel very exhausted and broken down. Why is this happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it happens to you. And as you process this, I really encourage you to feel all those feelings of grief and sadness, and then take a step back and recognize that there were likely signs along the way, and that doesn't excuse how they were or how they behaved. But it's important to look back and learn from what you went through so that you don't find yourself in this situation again. And Spirit is saying there's definitely hope. You will find, there's definitely hope. You will find in this earthly realm people who you can connect with and count on, and that will help support you in growing your dreams. You will have to start anew, starting anew in the physical realm. So to me, this message is this does involve an actual breakup, not a kind of gradual distancing, which is the other kind of friendship breakup that I haven't talked about yet, is when you kind of grow apart from someone and there still can be feelings of sadness and despair, but it doesn't necessarily require a conversation. So yes, I think now I will talk about that. So to those of you who are going to have the friendship breakup conversation, I wish you the best of luck. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. It'll hurt. It does hurt already, I'm sure. And you will find your light at the end of the tunnel. And now for those of you who find yourself in a more gradual distancing of friendships, this can hurt just as much. It can feel even more confusing than somebody who's kind of like treating you poorly. And there can be many reasons for this. Sometimes a person is just going through something, and it can be years and you may not know that it's going on, or it may be internal. They may not even realize what's happening. That doesn't mean that you can't have a conversation with them about how it's affecting you, though. So you would want to tell them, I feel hurt. I feel unvalued when you cancel plans constantly at the last minute because I feel like I don't matter to you. And while I know rationally that's not true, that's how it feels. And the pattern of behavior has been going on for a while. And I feel unvalued. And so they may react in one of two ways. I'm so sorry, I've had so much going on, I'll try better. And then they don't. Or they will really listen to you, really genuinely apologize, and really try to make an effort. Now, before you have that conversation, there's also the instance in which you may have found yourself constantly being the one reaching out, constantly being the one to make plans, and you feel fed up with it. You may feel like I'm the one putting in all the work, and you might feel taken for granted. When I went through something like this, my therapist asked me, okay, you find yourself in this position. You know, I was feeling mostly angry and frustrated and, all this stuff. And she said, well, how long has this been going on? How many times? And I told her, it's been a while. It's been kind of our whole friendship. I'm always the one kind of going the extra mile or whatever. And she was like, well, do you even want to be friends with her? And I was like, well, I mean, why not? I mean, I'm upset that she's treating me this way, or not really. I want to see her. And she's like, well, do you really want to be friends with somebody who treats you that way? And I had to go through a few sessions of like thinking about that and pausing, really, which is exactly the card gave me the words for it. I really had to pause and evaluate what was good and what was not so good for me, and did I really see this situation changing? And the answer was no. I didn't see it changing, and no, I didn't want to remain friends if that was how things were going to be. Um, I really just couldn't do it anymore, and so I got to the point where I said to myself, okay, well, I'm just going to stop being the one to always reach out. And because this has been a few years of me reaching out, me kind of going, always doing what's best and what's easiest for this other person and trying to make a friendship work. And I said, okay, well, if we're meant to be friends, if I step back and stop being the one to initiate contact and friendship and plans and everything, you know, a good friend to me would reach out and be like, hey, how have you been? I haven't heard from you. We should make plans. So if that happens, then great. I'll see how it goes. But I'm not going to do the constant reaching out, and making plans, and then I'll see where it goes from there. It doesn't mean that I'm going to like, yes, I'm all back into the friendship. So yeah, I stopped doing it and the friendship just ended. Um, it was surprising and it felt shitty and hurtful. But I realized that, you know, I had again had this pattern of doing this in my friendships and my relationships, always being the one available, always being the one to, like I said, go out of my way, and the friendship didn't continue after that. And so you'll find, if you're in the process of like a spiritual awakening or going deeper in your life, that these situations may happen to you, and they may happen to you more than once. And that's so that you can learn more early on the types of people, places, and situations you should really invest your time and energy in. You want to keep, despite what's going on, you want to keep a positive and generous mindset, because at any time you can reawaken abundance in your friendship life, and it's important to remember that. You know, we can react from the inner child of feeling like rejected and angry and even spiteful or revengeful, but we have to remember that we are the adult, and we want to nurture that inner child and reassure them that rejection is not always about you. It can be about the other person. Um, you need to find a more loyal companion, and that if this person didn't really want to be in your life anyway, then you don't want them there. You don't want anybody there out of obligation or convenience. You don't want to be in somebody's life just out of convenience. And don't get me wrong, we can have lighter friendships. There could be people we don't see that often, but when it comes down to it, if you're going through something difficult, especially, and you have friends that either aren't reaching out or don't reciprocate or are making things always about themselves, then you really have to evaluate if your energy is being reciprocated. Because as empaths, we can get ourselves into situations often where we are drained, where we feel drained. And through this whole process of awakening, through my friendships, I feel like I've realized that I like spending more time alone than I realized. And also that the process of keeping your heart open but protecting your boundaries is a very fine line to walk. It's a tightrope. We're not shown this in any kind of positive way in society. And so it's important to know when certain actions are warranted. Some people you're going to have to cut off, and it's going to feel harsh, and it's going to feel painful for you even, because maybe that's happened to you and you don't want to do that to anybody. But if somebody is behaving in the way that we talked about at the beginning, that's what you need to do. The more gradual friendship breakups can happen. They can feel just as painful, but usually not if there's not something that's concrete that was extremely hurtful. It can still just be hard to let things go, but reassure yourself that you'll find, you'll now have more time and energy to invest into yourself and into those future relationships where you feel that energy reciprocated. The only other thing I will say is that make sure that you don't get caught into, I don't want to say being selfish, but expecting too much from people. Um, so this card is all about a need for perspective. And it's important to remember that it's not always personal. Sometimes people just can't give you what you deserve and what you want and what you're able to give, and that's okay. And you can just walk away, and you don't have to be angry about it for too long. You want to the words are escaping me. Be kind to yourself. You want to tread lightly on yourself and other people. You don't want to not have these difficult conversations, but you also don't want to be too too hurtful again to yourself or others. Don't beat yourself up. Don't dwell too long. Let things go. Feel those feelings. It can be really hard. This process can take months. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like once you watch this and realize what's happening, be done. Betrayal is very difficult. Loss is very difficult, and you have to let yourself feel those feelings and then move forward. But you can't skip that part. So that's all for today on friendship breakups. Most of what we talked about here can be applied to romantic breakups as well. And it's important to most of all focus on your inner strength. Your inner strength through this whole process, reassuring yourself, being yourself, and not being afraid to be the lion, but also to be gentle. Thanks for watching.